Cash is king. Everyone always says it, right? And why do they say that? Because it truly is true. Cash is king. I can't function on a daily basis without cash. The fancy word we use is liquidity. But what does liquidity mean to you? So that's one of the questions when I sit down with my clients, I say, what does liquidity mean to you? And sometimes people will say, give me the definition, or some people look really puzzled at me and say, I don't know what liquidity actually means. It means cash and having easy access to it. So one of the three really simple things that we look at is your pay yourself first. Do you actually pay yourself first? And what does that mean? We'll get more into that in the next section. The other part is just what are you looking for? How much do you actually need to set aside? We'll talk about that as well. So it's all about cash and having access to cash for the two core things that happen: emergencies and opportunities. And we'll talk about that as well. All right, in the next lecture, we're actually going to talk about the importance of cash. Thank you for sticking with us. Now we're getting into the meat of it. And really it's, what is the importance of cash? And here's a really simple thing that we tell people. 3 to 6 months of your expenses. What are your monthly expenses? Multiply that by 3 to 6 times, and that's how much money you should actually have. You say, wow, why do I need that much money in the bank? It's for emergencies. So, or two things actually, emergencies and opportunities. Why always, one of the things I'm looking at is, why do we always talk about the pessimistic or the negative piece about emergencies? Why not also look at the opportunities? So if I have a business opportunity that comes up to me, or an opportunity to buy a cottage, I need that money available to take advantage of that opportunity. And I'd much rather use my own money than have to worry about getting money from the bank. So that's why cash is important. And it's about sitting down and structuring out. Work your own numbers to say, and what you'll get in this later in this course is I'll actually give you a PDF on, and you can actually calculate out what your cash flow is. That's the first step. How can we actually even move forward if I don't know but more importantly, if you don't know what your cash flow is? Once you know your cash flow, then we know where we're working. So, like I said, after this lecture, you can click on and download an Excel sheet on calculating your own cash flow, and then we'll really see about the importance of cash, whether you have some or whether you don't. Emergencies. What are they? What do you think they are? Write a comment in this lecture and let me know what you think some of the emergencies that you may actually have. Some other students will maybe appreciate that. I'm going to name a couple of them, but I'm not going to name everything. I don't know what personal experiences you have. I know I have a car in the driveway. So for example, if I have unforeseen car repairs, so there's the obvious thing like oil changes, those aren't emergencies. If I have to get a new set of tires, that's emergency. I'd rather provide for it or plan for some of those things, but it's not about planning for rainy days, because if you plan for rainy days, guess what you're going to get? Rainy days. And all of a sudden, it's because you have that money set aside, I don't necessarily want to have to spend it, but I want it available in case something happens. Like here in Canada, specifically Toronto, it's cold in the wintertime and I need a furnace. And if my furnace quits on me, I'm going to get a bill. And I'd prefer not to do what the average, not even the average, about 98% of people do, which is credit cards. They pay for their needs and wants first, and then they save. I don't want that to be you. I want you to be in the 2%, which is you set some money aside first, pay yourself, and then do your needs and wants after. Because you have that discipline, you're actually going to have some money in the bank, not just in a checking account, but easily accessible, so that when emergencies happen, you can pay it on your credit card, but then use the money in the bank to pay the credit card bill, so that you're not paying the 19 to 20 to 25% interest rates on your credit card. That's a completely different topic, but this is why you need to plan for emergencies. Not plan and hope that they happen, but have money available so that when those things do happen, you can fund it yourself. Be your own bank, and don't rely on credit cards, lines of credit, borrowing from friends, family, or the worst yet, those payday loans. Ouch! No one wants to pay payday loans. If you need to, it's available. But the interest rate and the cost to you is crazy. Much better to figure out, just do a little bit of planning, pay yourself first, set some money aside, and be ready for when the emergencies do come up. Welcome to the next lecture. In the previous one, we talked about emergency cash. Now let's talk about the positive side, which is opportunity cash. And you're like, what's opportunity cash? Well, because we're going to be working with you taking this course, or you're taking the first step on taking action, we're going to have you in that 2% of the population who actually saves first. So you're actually putting 10 to 30% of your money into the pay yourself first fund. And now you actually you're building this resource pool of cash or cash equivalent for opportunities. And you say, well, what kind of opportunities are you talking about? I say, well, how about a cottage? So, people are still buying cottages. Maybe 10, 15 years ago here in Canada, it was really popular. Now some people say, well, how can I actually afford a cottage today? And it's about paying yourself and building this opportunity fund. So when an opportunity comes available, you actually have the money available. So it could be a cottage, it could be becoming a franchise owner, or starting your own small business. And generally those they require funds. And we say about bootstrapping and how do you raise money on yourself, by yourself, without having to go to the bank. And an opportunity fund is how you do that. And that's all about doing that one little thing we talked about, sort of a principle from David Chilton and the Wealthy Barber. It's pay yourself first, where you set aside 10% of the money before you pay any bills, before you even pay the tax man. Set aside 10% and pay it to yourself and put it in an account just for you. Now, instead of just 10%, we say as you progress through paying down debt and having extra money, if you can get to 10 to 20 to ideally 30% setting aside, paying yourself first, now we're going to have a great, nice little chunk nest egg of money there that now we can look at opportunities. And anytime any opportunity comes available to you, you'll actually have the money and you'll be able to make the decision based on, is it a good decision or a good business opportunity versus do I actually have the money to afford it? The money to afford it question goes away because you have your opportunity fund. So that is what is all about opportunity and opportunity cash. Welcome to the 2%. We talked about it earlier, but let's get into more detail about what is the 2% club. Or actually, let's look at the opposite. What is the 98% club? So 98% of the population, specifically here in Canada, but I'm pretty sure North America, and around the world, we're not that different. 98% of the population, when they get their paycheck, they go and spend it on needs and wants. I need a new pair of shoes. Well, actually, I do need a new pair of shoes because mine have a crack in them. But I want a new iPhone. I don't need a new iPhone. My iPhone's perfectly fine. But I want a new iPhone, and therefore I go out and I spend $500 on a new iPhone, and I give my other one to my kids. But meanwhile, I haven't, I'm still making a payment on my mortgage. Does that make sense? Not really. So 98% of the population living paycheck to paycheck. Maybe not got that quite that high, but it's a big number here in Canada. The percentage of the population that are living paycheck to paycheck and are about 2 weeks from bankruptcy. That's shocking. And what my plan is, or what my objective is to move you from the 98% club. If you're there, that's okay. I was there as well. Moving from 98% into the 2% club. And you say, what is the 2% club? I want to be there. And that's the 2% that people say, when I get my money, I look after savings first. I pay myself first. So I'm taking my 10 to 20 to 30%. Now, if you can't quite afford the 10% even, let's start with 5. Start somewhere. Ideally, you want to go from 10 to 30%, and you're putting that into the fund of pay yourself first. Around the principles from David Chilton's book, The Wealthy Barber. He talked about the 10% fund. Pay yourself 10%. Now, if you're putting the 10% or 30% into that, now you're in the 2% club, where you're looking after your savings first, and second is the spending on the needs and wants. And now you're in a great spot where you're 2% of the population, and those are the 2% of the people that you see, and you're like, How are they actually able to afford to go on a vacation every year? Or maybe 2 vacations a year? It's not because they're putting it on their credit card. There are those people. But you're going to be that person that literally just takes it out of your fund, out of your bank account, and pays off that and goes on that vacation. And guess what? You're going to enjoy that vacation because guess what you don't have when you come back from vacation? A great big credit card bill that you can't afford to pay. And therefore you pay that absorbent amount of interest. 10, 15, 20% of interest. You're like, wow, I got a great deal on Groupons. I went on this vacation and I saved 50%, but then I paid interest for the next 6 months paying it off. Ouch. That's where 98% of the population is. And because you've taken the action and signed up for this course, and you're now looking after want to take responsibility of your own money, you're going to move into from the Class B into the Class A, the 2% club. So thank you for taking that initiative, and thank you for getting through the first section on Cash is King. Now get ready for the next lecture on lifestyle.